Hi everybody, this is Coach McCurry from Baseball by the Yard. Today's tip is for anybody who's throwing a baseball. And I can't stress enough the importance of utilizing your wrist when you throw a baseball. That is an extremely big part of throwing, and a lot of kids unfortunately do not get the most out of the wrist. Now, here's the problem here. The way our arm is built, our arm really is not meant to do a lot of activity above our shoulders, okay? The way the joint works in the shoulder is that our arm is basically, our shoulder is meant to move like this, okay? Which is great if you're a softball pitcher, not so good if you're a baseball pitcher who has to throw over here. So that's one reason why a lot of shoulder injuries in baseball, because the shoulder just isn't meant to do a lot of stressful activity above the shoulder. It's meant to be doing work around here, under our shoulders. The next one is our elbow. Now our elbow really is only meant to do this. It is not meant to bend back like baseball players do when they throw overhand. So again, that's why we see a lot of elbow injuries in baseball combined with shoulder injuries, because we are putting these joints in positions that they're really not constructed to do. And that brings us to the wrist. The wrist is a very flexible joint. I can go in any direction. I can go forward, I can go back, I can go around to the side. And so it is extremely flexible joint. And so we don't see many wrist injuries in baseball because the wrist is meant to do all the things that we do on a baseball field. So the key is when you are throwing a baseball, we have to get kids to use more wrist and less elbow and less shoulder. Unfortunately, when a lot of kids throw a baseball, they flat wrist the ball. So a flat wrister looks like this. When they take the ball back, the wrist is flat, and when they throw, the wrist is pretty much flat. So if I don't use my wrist, that means I have to use my elbow more, and I have to use my shoulder more, which we already said, those two joints really don't handle that stress very well. And if we're putting additional stress on those joints, it's not going to be very good. So the more I can use that flexible joint of my wrist, the less I have to use my elbow, and the less I have to use my shoulder. So we want kids to develop a good flexible wrist when they throw. Now a drill that some kids will do is they will hold their elbow and they will work on this drill here, starting with the ball forward. They will come back and then throw it up against the wall and just kind of flip it to either a buddy or to a wall to try to get the full range of motion. Now, I've known pitching coaches who don't like kids to hook the ball when they bring the ball out of their glove. I actually am in favor of it because it puts the wrist in a position starting pointing forward and then back and then forward again. You get the full range of motion with your wrist when kids hook the ball to a certain degree. If they bring the ball back and they're like this, in many cases, it starts that flat wristing process, which puts more stress on the elbow and the shoulder. Now, I know that gets a little complicated with some of the pitching, kinesiology, and all that stuff, but the big point is here, if we can get kids to use much more of their wrist, they don't have to use their elbow or their shoulder as much, okay? So I hope that inspired you to go out there and try to use more wrists when you throw. If I'm a pitcher and I get more wrist action, that's going to give me more movement. It's going to give me a little more velocity. My fastball may jump a little bit more in the last 10 feet, which are all great things to do if you're throwing a baseball. So that's your tip for today. Use as much wrist as you can when you throw, and any drill that promotes that is worth the time and effort. So I'm Coach McCurry signing off, everybody. Have a great day.